What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. We are sitting here on this Thursday, couple hours away from Thursday Night Football. Also, a few hours away from the start of the Hawks Nest stream. I will be streaming with him tonight at about 8 o'clock. We will get started talking about the Lions game, talking about the upcoming Giants game. So be there. Should be starting right as Thursday Night Football starts winding down. Hope to see you guys there. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about this offensive line because it's been a little bit of a trial through the first quarter of the season, right? It's been rough. And there have been calls for this guy to get benched, that guy to get playing time, this guy to get fired, that guy to get fired, that guy to get reprimanded, that guy to get promoted, whatever. A lot of stuff going on with the offensive line right now. But as of this video getting posted to the internet, there is starting to be some reason to believe that things are about to get better for the Seattle Seahawks up front. And really, that is the final missing piece to this equation. So let's go over a couple of tweets here from Brady Henderson to start us off. Mike McDonald said the Seahawks offensive line probably played its best game of the year Monday night. Geno Smith was sacked 3 times, but that was on 61 dropbacks. He averaged about 37 and a third the first 3 games. So that part of the equation is very important, right? On the surface level, you're looking at the pressure numbers and you're like, wow, Geno Smith was really getting pressured. Geno Smith was getting hit. He got sacked about the same number of times he got sacked in the first few games of the year. So, surface level, nothing got better. But when you account for the situation, we're seeing the stuff that we need to see. And remember, I don't know if I would call that Detroit front great right now, but they have one great player. They have one player who's more than great. Aiden Hutchinson may be the best in the business right now. If not, he's in the top 5. So Geno Smith dropped back 61 times after averaging about 37 dropbacks in the first 3 games. And the number of times he was sacked and hit and pressured was pretty much indistinguishable from the first 3 games. And remember, let's be very clear here, when you are getting pressured to throw the ball a lot in a game, when you are in situations where you know you have to throw the ball and everyone knows you have to throw the ball, it's really hard to not get pressured because the other team knows what you're going to do. So all those snaps we had in that game where we're down multiple scores, especially in the second half, and everybody knows we're going to throw the ball, especially those final 2 drives, yeah, you're going to get pressured a lot of those snaps. Those are not snaps within the regular flow of a regular game. So, straight up, here after game number 4, I think things are starting to clearly and demonstrably get better. And Brady Henderson's tweet also has a clip of Geno Smith talking about the offensive line. I'm not going to go into the clip here, but he was I think he's pretty on the ball here. I think he's pretty on point here. That was a difficult situation to hold up in. They held up okay. And Brady Henderson had a second tweet that offered up some statistics to indicate that the offensive line is headed in the right direction. So we have pass block win rate, which is an ESPN stat. And over the first 3 games, the Seahawks had a bottom 3 pass block win rate, 45.3%. So 30th best in the league. So they were among the worst, bottom 3 in the first 3 games. In the Lions game, they were about average, 56.4. So big step in the right direction there. Sacks per dropback. Now, this number is thankfully low because Geno Smith has been a wizard at getting the ball out of his hands quickly and not taking sacks. By the way, sorry if you can hear the blower back there. 7.1%. So he gets sacked on 7.1% of his dropbacks, which is still not a terrible number. That's about average. But you can see the significant improvement on Monday night, 4.9%, which would be 16th, which is not a big shift or anything, but the number itself is a significant shift in the positive direction. And then you have pressure rate, which admittedly didn't move that much. And actually, in terms of ranking, it went down. But the actual rate itself went down by about 2%, from 33% to 31.1%. And again, I would say, look at the opponent, right? In that third game, you're playing Miami with no Bradley Chubb. You've got New England with no Christian Barmore. Those pass rush units that we had faced in those first three games, not great. Maybe Denver's pretty great. But even then, Denver, like, they don't have TJ Watt. They don't have Myles Garrett. They don't have one individual super killer. They're just playing really well right now as a unit. And then you have New England, and then you have Miami. Those units up front don't instill a lot of fear in me right now with the personnel they're missing. They're missing some pretty serious guys. So, Detroit, featuring the great Aiden Hutchinson, you did better. So, this is an indication that the continuity that we're trying to build is starting to pay off. And this is something that I've said a few times already this year. The individual levels of talent we have with our offensive line right now may not be great, right? Especially with our third string right tackle out there. But continuity is being built. Charles Cross, Laken Tomlinson, Connor Williams, the rotation at right guard, and Stone Forsythe, they're getting familiar with each other. They're getting camaraderie with each other, and that's what offensive line play is all about. Building camaraderie. The biggest problem with the Seahawks offensive line last year was not the individual talent levels of the players. It was the fact that every game we were having to pull guys out and put other guys in. People would get hurt. We'd have to put the backup in. Then the backup gets hurt. Third stringer goes in. And then the starter gets better. He has to go back in. And then he gets hurt again. And it just keeps going on and on and on. No opportunity to build continuity. And that was the thing that really killed it last year. That was why we couldn't get to where we wanted to get to. So I understand that it's frustrating to hang with some of these guys right now. And I'm not a huge fan of it either. I'm not a fan of sticking with Laken Tomlinson at left guard when this is probably his last year in the NFL. He's clearly not very good and he doesn't fit the offense. But I also know that his play is going to get better as he builds experience with these teammates in this system. Same with a guy like Bradford, who was beyond awful those first few games. Thought he looked a little bit better on Monday night. Still not great. Still work to be done. Still lacking some things. But I guarantee you, if you give him an extended period of time to gain comfort, and this would go for Christian Haynes as well, if you decide to put in Christian Haynes instead, whoever it is, let it sit, and you'll eventually start getting good results. And that's the best thing you can do right now. If you want to argue that this guy should be benched for that guy, okay. Like in the case of Anthony Bradford, I could see it because Bradford was playing so poorly to start the season. But even in a case like that, the argument for letting continuity build is often stronger. So we're going to have some interesting games coming up here. And if this offensive line can continue to show that they're getting better and better and better with each passing week, and by the midpoint of the year, maybe they're average, and by later in the year, maybe they're a little bit above average. If Abe Lucas gets back and is able to stay on the field and play effectively, maybe they could even be a good offensive line. Let's think about what this team has proven they can do with a legitimately good offensive line. I know this was 2 years ago, and I know we have a new offensive coordinator. But I think most of us would agree, as of right now, the offensive coordinator we got seems like he's going to be a little bit better than the guy we had previously. So let's take a look at Geno Smith in 2022 here. That first part of the season, the first, I'd say 2/3 of the year maybe, when the offensive line was playing well, not great, but well, look at the results he was able to provide. Right? Let's say starting with week 1, going all the way through to week number 12. That was the stretch where the offensive line was playing at a high level, right? And look at the numbers that he was on track to post if you just take those 12 games. 73 completion percentage almost, which would have been very close to an NFL record, if not an NFL record. 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, better than he ended up. Almost 4,500 yards. He was on pace to legitimately be an MVP candidate in 2022. And he still got an MVP vote in 2022, even though he fell off hard at the end here. You can see these last 5 games, things got away from him. He started turning the ball over more. He wasn't throwing for as many yards. His completion percentage came off. And this was in large part because of bad circumstance as well, right? Because think about the injuries at running back we had at that point. We played Carolina. This the next game on this list. Game number 13, week 14. We basically didn't have a running back in that game. So this is the music Geno Smith can make if he gets good offensive line play. Not just great or elite, but just good offensive line play. This is what he does for you. A lot of people seem to act like his struggles at the end of 2022, which were there. I mean, he definitely struggled, were in a vacuum. They didn't happen in a vacuum, people. They happened because the offensive line started playing much worse. But look at the production in most of these games, right? There are a few games where the offense was like, not so great, but 23 points, 48 points, 32 points, 37 points, 27 points, 31 points, 34 points, 27 points. That's most of the games. You have a few results that are not kind of mediocre, 17, 19, 16, and then maybe one bad result, the 7 points in San Francisco. But for the most part, that was a top-of-the-line offense in 2022. And this was without JSN. This is without Charbonnet. This is, in many ways, in terms of the playmakers, a less talented offense. And it all came together just because the offensive line was good. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. This is what we're trying to get to by the end of the year, guys. And believe me, it'll be worth it.